Boston Garden, April 28, 1991, and Larry Bird is talking trash to Chuck Person's face, hitting jumpers like his back doesn't exist, and 30 seconds from now, this building is going to go completely silent in a way it almost never does. They don't know that yet. Who can forget Larry Bird's incredible playoff performances during the 1980s? You can't. They are legendary. Most have forgotten Bird's playoff performances in the 90s, as there weren't many since Larry Legend retired in 1992. Still, one of the most gutsy performances came in the first round of the 1991 playoffs versus the Indiana Pacers. The series, which stretched to the full 5 games, showcased Bird's indomitable spirit and his incredible skill on the basketball court, and it was in the decisive Game 5 where Bird put on his last great playoff performance. The physicality of the 90s was on full display early in the game as Bird pump fake past LaSalle Thompson and attacked the hoop, just to get hammered by Greg Dreiling. In 1991, Reggie Miller led the Pacers in scoring, but their true leader was still Chuck Person. And Person would start the Pacers off by hitting a fall-away jumper. The Celtics would answer back with a Kevin Gamble jumper. Miller would get on the board for the Pacers, popping off a screen and nailing a long jumper. Despite being 34 years old and having a bad back, Bird fought like he was in his prime. Dreiling attempted to take Bird down on the low block, but Bird bodied him up, knocking the ball loose. Dreiling grabbed the loose ball, but couldn't hit the shot as Bird secured the rebound. Bird ignited a fast break which ended with a monster slam by the late Reggie Lewis. Shortly after Lewis' dunk, Bird would drill a jumper to force Indiana to take a timeout as the Celtics led 10-4 with 9:32 remaining in the first quarter. Every time Bird made a shot, Bird was trash talking to Chuck Person at the same time. Goodbye, Chuck. Vacation time, Chuck. Have a nice summer. All that talk, and he backs it up too. Person was in trouble. The Celtics continued their attack for the remainder of the first quarter, taking a 35-25 lead after one quarter of play. Even though they were the younger and less experienced team, the Pacers weren't about to lay down for the Celtics. Detlef Schrempf hit a turnaround jumper over Bird to start the second quarter for the Pacers. The Celtics answered right back with Bird's longtime running mate Kevin McHale, who finished at the basket. The Pacers put the pressure on the Celtics, forcing Bird to commit a turnover as he made a bad pass in the backcourt. This eventually led to Mike Sanders scoring in the post. The Pacers cut the Celtics lead to 6 at 37-31, but Bird would stop Indiana's run by hitting a long jumper from the corner, giving him 8 points in the game. Indiana would not waste any time as they rushed down the court, finding Schrempf, who connected on a jumper. Pacers had a talent, but they were so young and inexperienced. They were a run-and-gun type of team. But this was not a regular season game, this was playoffs. Bird would answer by finishing with a running left-handed layup. Chuck Person was proving why he was the leader of the Pacers at this time. He'd hit a turnaround while being fouled. And Chuck Person was a brash, outspoken trash talker who wanted to get in Bird's face. Bird would answer with a turnaround jumper of his own, but the Pacers would push the ball inbounds after the made bucket, and Michael Williams would connect on a layup while being fouled. Bird would continue his hot streak, making another jumper, which gave him a 14 in the game and a perfect 4-for-4 shooting in the second quarter. The Pacers again would push the ball up after Bird's made bucket. After this time, it will be Miller drilling a 3 for the Pacers. The Pacers were firing on all cylinders and Bird was single-handedly keeping the Celtics ahead. Person had a range. He could post up, and more than anything else, he understood how to get under opponent's skin. If you were going to come after a hobbling 34-year-old Larry Bird, Chuck Person was exactly the kind of player you wanted doing it. He was the Pacers' edge. He was the reason Boston couldn't just expect to cruise through this series on reputation alone. And that's why Bird had to deliver his A game. But with 4 minutes and 30 seconds left in the second quarter, with Boston holding on to a 48-46 lead, Bird dove for the ball after it was knocked out of his hands and in the process slammed his face on the floor. Bird was shaking by the fall and he'd leave the game as fans cheered loudly for him. Bird walks off the floor and the building doesn't know what to do with itself. 14 points, 4 for 4 in the quarter, and now he's gone. The universal assumption was, oh my god, it is the back, Larry is gone for good. But it wasn't the back, it was his face. Larry Bird was groggy. Bird banging his face so hard on the parquet that his head bounced up and down like a ping pong ball. The injury appeared serious as Bird lay face down as play continued. The injury was a nasty bruise on his right cheekbone. And the crowd, which had been loud, fevered, electric, went to a different place entirely. The kind of quiet that only comes when a building realizes it might be watching something irreversible. He left the game as the fans cheered. That particular Boston Garden cheer that carries love and fear in equal measure. The Celtics tried their best without Bird, led by Larry Legend's longtime running mate Robert Parrish. First finding Reggie Lewis for a big slam dunk, and later grabbing the air ball shot by Brian Shaw and finishing with a layup. Still, without Bird, the Pacers were too much, outscoring the Celtics 33-23 in the second to tie the game at the half at 58-58. Bird would not come out with his team to start the third. Lewis tried his best to lead the team by hitting a pull-up jumper. Shaw chipped in by connecting on a long jump shot. Still, Boston struggled to stop the Pacers as LaSalle Thompson scored down low, and Person followed that up with a 3 with less than 7 minutes left in the third. Just as Lewis broke a 71-71 tie with a layup, the crowd erupted as Bird exited the locker room. He had waited for 12 years to play in the postseason against the Pacers, and he wanted to be out there. Old wounds and feelings run very deep in Bird's psyche. He wanted to show Indiana that he was still Larry Bird and that the Celtics were still the Celtics. And he wanted to win that trash talk battle with Chuck Person. He had not practiced in any real sense for over a month. Repeat, bad back, no practice, no chance to sharpen skills. He submits a triple-double in Game 1 and then heads to New England Baptist for traction. He goes out in the deciding game of an NBA series against a team playing superb basketball, and he damn near breaks his face while doing it. He would not discuss the injury other than to say he had been knocked groggy. He just knew that as long as it wasn't his back, he was coming back in. A game like this is what he lives for. And this seemed like an eternity for Boston fans. For Larry, what pain. You don't worry about that stuff when you're on the court, Larry said. You just go out there and play as hard as you can. Larry says the doctor told me I probably had a concussion and they didn't think I should go out there with both the back and the damage I did to my brain. I rattled it a little bit. Going into the series, I didn't know if I was going to be able to play in all the games. The Celtics needed every bit of Larry Bird's skill and guile to defeat a talented, well-coached, and often inspired Indiana team. This was a championship series disguised as a first-rounder. Bird re-entered the game, but the battle between his teammates and the Pacers continued. Parrish hit his patent hook shot, and the Pacers followed up with a jumper by Thompson and a long three by Person. Larry's coming back also overshadowed incredible Chuck Person basketball shooting clinic. He was in the zone, he was amazing. This gave Indiana a 3-point lead, but Boston wouldn't stay down for long as Parrish hit another jumper and Bird rebounded a Pacers miss and threw a long outlet pass to Lewis, who finished at the basket. Bird would get his first made basket after his injury with a long straightaway jumper over the outstretched hands of Shrimp. Larry moving visibly slower than he had been in the first half, every step costing him something. But he attacked, to the absolute delight of every person in that building. He dragged the team back. The Celtics continued their attack, led by Bird, who again grabbed a rebound after a Pacers miss and made a bullet pass to Lewis, who thrilled the crowd with a slam dunk. A few plays later, Bird, despite moving slowly, attacked the basket and put up a floater, scoring the bucket to the delight of the Celtics faithful. Boston outscored Indiana 42-33 in the third, thanks to Bird sparking the Celtics to a 9-point lead heading into the fourth. This was Larry Bird, not the Bird of the mid-80s, Not the Bird who was running circles around defenders when he was fully healthy and in his prime. This was the version of him that had nothing left physically, but somehow still had more basketball intelligence in one possession than most players carry in an entire career. The kind of intelligence you can't teach, can't train, and can't fake. You either see the game at that level or you don't. Bird saw it at a level almost nobody in the history of basketball ever has. And what made 1991 different from the every highlight reel of his prime was that here, stripped of everything else, that intelligence was the only weapon he had left, and it was still enough. Larry in 1991 had a back that woke him up every morning, reminding him it was done. And he still walked out of that locker room in the third quarter of a playoff elimination game and ran the same triple fake sequence he would run at 27. Not because his back let him, because his mind never aged a single day. Because Larry Bird didn't let other people write the ending. In a first-round series against a team half the league expected to beat them, the Celtics attacked the basketball to open the fourth, with Lewis and Parrish finishing layups over the Pacers defense. Even Bird finished with a fast break layup as he kept the Pacers away from the victory. Indiana wouldn't stop fighting as their future superstar Reggie Miller hit a three off the screen, but the Pacers couldn't stop Parrish from finishing at the rim. Bird hit the floor one more time when he was blindsided by a pick set by Person, who slammed into Bird's bad back. Bird would get up and continue to battle on the boards, keeping rebounds away from the Pacers. Then Bird hit the floor again. Chuck Person set a pick that slammed directly into Bird's back, the same back, the one that was already half the reason the Celtics dynasty was ending. That was Chuck Person doing what Chuck Person did all night long. The Pacers kept attacking the hoop as Michael Williams hit D. Brown with a nasty crossover and finished with a left-handed layup. Person hit another three and Vern Fleming finished with two layups, including an N1. The Pacers scored 30 in the fourth, outscoring Boston in the final period, but it wouldn't be enough to get to victory. And if you want to understand just how bad that back actually was, not in the abstract, not as a footnote in a career retrospective, but in the visceral, physical, day-to-day reality of what Larry Bird was living through, you need to know one thing. He couldn't sit on a bench. Not comfortably, not for any length of time. The bench, the chairs, the normal posture of a basketball player taking a timeout, all of it was too much. So Bird did what Bird always did when the situation was impossible. He adapted during timeouts, during dead balls, during any moment when the game stopped and his body caught up with him. Bird would lie down right there on the floor, flat on his back. Bird seemingly finished Indiana off when he retrieved the ball at the top of the key. Bird faked a shot which made Person, who was trailing him, fly past. Bird faked the pass to his left, freezing the defense. He then faked the pass to Kevin McHale, who stood behind him, before turning to nail the wide-open jumper. The Celtics won the game 124-121 to win the series 3-2, finishing off the young Pacers in style. Larry Bird's 1991 playoff series against the Indiana Pacers remains a highlight reel of determination and skill. It's a reminder of what makes sports so captivating: the human spirit's capacity to overcome adversity and triumph against the odds. Bird's performance in that series, and especially Game 5, is a timeless story of a sports hero who refused to be defeated, even when the odds were stacked against him. Game 5 against the Indiana Pacers wasn't an isolated act of toughness. It was just one Tuesday in a very long war that Bird had been fighting against his own body, quietly, without ceremony, on the floor of every arena in the NBA for longer than most people ever knew. So when people rank Bird's greatest playoff performances, they reach for the 80s, the steal against Detroit, the battles with Magic, the iconic moments from when he was at the peak of his powers. Those belong there. They are untouchable. But April 28, 1991, Boston Garden, Game 5 against the Indiana Pacers deserves a place in that conversation.